Hello everyone, I'm Stevan Lohja, Developer Relations Engineer here at Midnight. And in this video series, we're diving into becoming Cardano Stake Pool Operators, or SPOs. Now, why are we doing this? Well, because to be a Midnight Validator, you first need to be a Cardano SPO. And Midnight's Validator candidates are chosen from Cardano SPOs. So I'll walk you through setting up your very own stake pool. We'll be setting up an SPO on Cardano's Preview Testnet because that's the environment which the Midnight Testnet is a partner chain to. And to run an SPO, you'll need to manage Cardano nodes. I'll be doing this tutorial on my local machine, and you could follow along. We'll use Multipass to set up local virtual machines, but in production, though, you might opt in for bare metal servers or a cloud provider. If you're curious about cloud and bare metal options, I'll briefly show you one, such as Cherry Servers. So Cherry Servers is a Web3 hosting provider, and I use them right now, and I definitely think they're a great provider. Not only do they have Web3 experience, but they have a great support team, and you can also use them for traditional cloud infrastructure solutions. And their platform is actually pretty easy to use. For example, here I am signed in here. I have another project in here, but let's say I wanted to create a new project. You simply create that one. I just created this SPO one just to show you here. However, you could see I have SPO. It says no available instances found. So let's say I need to start creating instances for my Cardano Stake Pool operation or whatever your use case is. All you do is enter the project and literally just click the New Instances button, and then you'll be shown a plethora of so many options. And you can check the documentation for this particular tutorial, what instance would work best for you. However, Cardano Stake Pool operations generally have 2 or more instances. One instance is a dedicated block producer node, and 1 or more instances are Cardano relay nodes. And the cool thing about Cherry is they have international support, so you can create instances in different geographical locations, which it's definitely recommended for production grade coverage. And the cool thing about Cherry is they also have dedicated server resources, and in my opinion, they have pretty good value for what they're offering. So if you do decide to use Cherry, go ahead and use Cherry. And it's always great to support our Web3 friends versus some of the other options out there. So go Cherry. Before we begin with the hands-on tutorial, I want to remind you of a few helpful resources. Firstly, check the video description for the complementary documentation to this video. I will be using some scripts that make life a whole lot easier. However, the documentation will help you follow along, so you can copy and paste any commands within this that you see within this video, and maybe you can also modify scripts if you do so choose to. And second, scan the QR code on the screen and join the Midnight Discord server, where you'll find fellow SPOs and other people going through the same process as yourself. And you can also ask for help and ask questions and just be a part of the broader community. And third, please tell us, give us your feedback. If this video was helpful to you, we'd love to know that. So in the comments or even Discord, tell us how you felt about this content, what we can do to improve, because we're always thriving to improve our content so we can deliver not only value to you, but value to our community. So we really, really appreciate any feedback. There are 2 main things that we'll accomplish in this video. So firstly, we'll establish a Cardano stake pool on the Cardano Preview Testnet, because Midnight Validators are Cardano Stake Pool Operators, and in this case, the Midnight Testnet is a partner chain to the Cardano Preview Testnet. So in order to even be eligible to be a Midnight Validator, you have to be a Cardano SPO. So this video kind of covers that that prerequisite. It is made for testing purposes, but Midnight's in a special place where it's a partner chain, and there's a lot of people who are new to the Cardano side of things. So it's a great privilege to onboard people to SPO operation for the first time. And, I hope this is a very educational exercise for you. And second, we're going to generate and prepare the necessary Cardano keys required for registering a Midnight Validator. So after you set up your SPO, which is the first goal, the second thing is if you do decide to opt in to becoming a Midnight Validator on the testnet, we'll just go over the certain Cardano keys that you will need in order to be prepared for that registration process. And most of those keys you're going to be creating already with setting up a Cardano Stake Pool. However, we'll just go over which keys you have to have handy if you do opt in to become a Midnight Validator. As far as the system requirements to follow along this tutorial, there's two methods that you'll probably be doing. Many of you will probably be on your local machine. In that case, we'll use Multipass virtualization to simply spin up 2 local Ubuntu instances. And if you're on a cloud or bare metals, you'll probably, I'd recommend using 2 instances. So it's following along locally or on a cloud or bare metals environment is totally up to you. However, you will need a minimum of 2 instances. Now, as far as more detailed system requirements, if you're following on your local machine, you're going to want at least 4 cores or more of CPU. You're going to want at least 80 gigabytes or more of storage, and you want 8 gigabytes or more of memory. And for the local environment, this will actually be divided within the 2 virtual Ubuntu instances using Multipass. Now, if you're on a cloud or bare metals, you'd want 2 instances. Each instance would have 2 cores or more, 40 gigabytes or more of storage, and 4 gigabytes or more of memory. I've seen different benchmarks with different cloud providers, so you might need, in some cases, you might actually discover you might need a little bit more, but this is like a minimum benchmark I've experienced with some providers. However, of course, depending on what provider you use and the quality of those instances, you might experience something different, but this is a bare minimum. Multipass is a tool to easily launch Ubuntu virtual machines. You can install this by visiting the Multipass website and downloading the installer. If you're already on Linux, then Multipass can be installed via a snap package. So you can see here, I'm on the official Multipass website, and I just click Install Now. See, it tells me I can select my operating system, such as Linux, which can be installed via snap. And then there's also downloadable Windows and Mac OS installers. All you do is click it, and it starts to download and just run it. I've already ran the Mac installer. So I'm just going to open my shell here. I'm going to verify the installation. I could do that by simply invoking Multipass. So I could do Multipass. This should print usage and options. I could also do Multipass help to also see options. I could also do Multipass -- version, and that should return the version. I can even do which Multipass, and that'll show me where it's installed. So at this point, Multipass is installed. Now, to quickly launch 2 virtual machines and provision them with the Guild Operators SPO toolkit, we're going to run the following script in our shell. And now to verify the script, you can simply just go to the script URL and see what's going on. However, it's inspired by the Guild Operators toolkit. This is a very popular Cardano SPO project. I simply just call it the SPO toolkit. However, if you the script does follow the recommendations for configuration to target the Preview Testnet. And if you ever want to dive deeper into the SPO toolkit and possibly configure the script for your needs, feel free to visit the official SPO Toolkit documentation. However, I'm going to go back to my shell here. I'm going to run this provided script, and if you need to know where to get this command, simply visit the complementary documentation, which is linked within the video description. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter. The initial launching of the instance and provisioning may take a few minutes to complete. And this will create two virtual machines named CN1 and CN2. In other words, Cardano Node 1 and Cardano Node 2. It also declares each instance to have 2 CPU cores, 4 GB memory, and 40 GB disk storage. The script follows the SPO Toolkit's recommendation for preview configuration, though you can visit the SPO Toolkit documentation and modify the script as you see fit. Now that the instances are deployed, you can invoke the multipass list command like so. Let me clear this. Let's do multipass list. The list command shows the current state and IP addresses of the instance, and you want to make a note of the IP address for each instance because they will be needed later. Multipass also comes with a graphical user interface. If you search for your multipass in your apps, it will show you some basic information and management options. So if I go to my launchpad here, go to multipass, you can see here I have this real neat GUI that shows me some cool stuff such as memory usage, disk usage, and I can also manage them from here if I wanted to. Okay. So at this point, our instances are up and running. Now, something we want to do is verify that the SPO Toolkit's installed correctly. One way we can do that is multipass shell CN1 to go into an instance. We could do Cardano node version. That should return the version. We could also do Cardano CLI version. That should return the version. We could also do echo cnode home, and that should return this directory, which is what the SPO Toolkit uses. We could also do, let's say, ls cnode home, and we should see all these different directories. So if you see all these things, that means the SPO Toolkit has been installed correctly. We could do the same thing for instance CN2. So let's do multipass shell CN2. Okay, if we do Cardano node version, CLI version. Okay, now let's do echo cnode. This cnode down. Great. So at this point, it seems like the SPO, the launching and provisioning of everything was done correctly in both instances. All right. Now, before we continue, I want to emphasize that instance CN1 will be designated as the relay node. CN2 will initially be set up as a relay node, but will later be converted into a block producer node. This method involves configuring both CN1 and CN2 initially as relay nodes, followed by a transition where CN2 assumes the role of a block producer node. I'm going to emphasize this again in my bash shell. CN1 will be the relay node, okay? CN2 will start as a relay node, but be converted into a block producer node. Okay, just so you know. So now we know that which Cardano node instance is going to be designated as a relay node and block producer node. Let's enter the CN1 instance by invoking the multipass shell followed by the instance name. So I'm going to do multipass shell cn1. Okay, and the initial provisioning should have installed the SPL toolkit. In the previous step, we already verified that that is true. And to test start the relay node interactively in our shell, we can go to cnode home and change directory into scripts. Okay, and now we're in the scripts directory here. You see all these different scripts available. We're not going to, there's no need for us to focus on all of them. However, to run the Cardano node within our shell, we can invoke the cnode script. So I'll do cnode.sh, hit enter, and you should see some output that ends with listening on HTTP, an IP address that says like 127.0.01. And just so you know, this is the correct output. And Control-C will close the node, but let's run this again and let's not close it. Okay, so I'm going to leave this running interactively in our shell. And what we're going to do is open a new shell. So I'm going to go on my terminal here and let's do split horizontally. Let's do that. Okay, so in my new shell here, the node is still running interactively in my shell, as you can see in the other shell view. So I'm gonna go. I have a new shell here. I'm gonna do multipass shell cn1, and I'm in that instance again. I'm gonna go to the scripts directory again, which is cd cnode home, and then scripts. Right, and there's another script called glibview. It's a very popular dashboard tool. So to monitor the node using glibview, I'm simply going to invoke the glibview script here. And glibview should return real-time information about the node. If you get this error that says terminal too small, you simply just need to increase your shell size a little bit, and then the dashboard will reappear. Okay, and you can, and to exit glibview, you could do Control-C, and you could stop the relay node by doing also Control-C. So if I were to close the node in my shell here, you should see glibview should have a connection failure, which is good because that's what I did. I closed the node interactively in shell. Then that means that glibview wasn't able to fetch the node information. All right. Now that we verified the node can run as a relay, there's some configuration we must do to ensure our relay node can be discoverable by our block producer node. And remember, the block producer node is going to be instance CN2. All right. So we need to actually edit our Cardano node configuration JSON file. So what I'm going to do is, here, I'll just stay in this shell here. Okay, so I'm in the CN1 instance still. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the config.json file. So to do that, you're going to go to cnode homes. Okay, then we're going to go to files. And you should see within your files this configuration JSON file. I'm going to edit that using Vim. So I'm going to do Vim config JSON, and I'm inside this JSON file now. Now what I'm going to do is hit the I key for insert mode and use my arrow keys to navigate to peer sharing. I'm going to change this to true. Okay. I'm going to do escape key, shift colon, and then W to right quit and save the file. Okay. You can verify the changes were done by doing cat config.json. I should be able to scroll up and see the values I changed. Let's see, peer sharing equals true. All right, so the file edit was successful. The next file I need to change is the typology.json file. So that's in the same directory, this CNode files. And you see this typology.json. So I'm going to edit that. I'm going to do vim typology.json. And now I get to see my typology file from my node. All right. So this is pretty self-explanatory, actually. So you see here, this is a default topology file, but it already gives you a clue what you need to do. So I'm going to hit the I key to go into insert mode, and you see these local roots and access points. Now, our relay node needs a persistent connection to or access to the block producer node. This is described in access points, and you can clearly see the line that reads replace with BP. Just underneath that hot valency describes the minimum connection in that group that must be satisfied. So since we only need one block producer node, valency may be equal to 1. So let's make these modifications. So what I'm going to do is go to here, and I'm already in the designated relay node. If you had more relays, you can definitely put them in here if you wanted to. However, I'm just going to delete this line. Okay, and I'm going to also delete the comma here. And it says replace with your BP node. And remember, the BP node, at least in this tutorial, is instance CN2, right? Now, the default port is 6000. The IP address, remember when I said to make a note, the IP address for Multipass. So to do that, we're going to do, I'm just going to go on my other shell here and do Multipass list. I see the IP address for CN2. I'm simply going to input that here in the address value here. So what is that? 192.168.64.56. Okay, and I'm going to do hot valency to 1. All right. Now, all right, and that is all you have to change in your relay node topology file. So I'm going to do escape : right quit. All right, and I can verify that I made those changes by doing cat topology.json and just scrolling, just making sure that the file's definitely edited, which it is. All right. Now it's a good idea to test start the node after modifying configuration files. So let's run the node interactively in the shell again after making these adjustments. So I'm going to go back to CNode, homes, let's go to scripts, and let's run the node interactively in shell again. See it's running. Now let's look at glibview to verify it's running okay. So in my other shell here, I'm going to leave this running interactively in shell, and I'm going to go to my my other shell here, Multipass shell cn1, go back in the instance. I'm going to go to CNode, home, scripts, and let's run glibview. And most importantly, I want to make sure that it's syncing okay. All right. See, it's a Cardano node. It's a relay. It's on the preview network, and it says it's syncing to 2%. It is beginning to peer, and I just want to make sure that it's syncing. All right, it's syncing to 2.1 now. All right. So at this point, this node is syncing, and if there's no errors and the node is progressing to sync, so that's great. So to stop the processes, we're just going to do Control C. So I'll just Control Let's close GLive view, and let's close the node interactively to show here. Now, instead of manually starting the node, we're going to configure it as a systemd service for automatic startup. And the toolkit includes a script to do this quite easily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, here, let me just close one of these shells here. Here we go. So I'm already in the scripts directory. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do cnode sh and then the d flag. Okay. And this says deploying cnode as systemd service and cnode service deployed successfully. All right. Now to start the systemd service, we need to do sudo systemctl start cnode.service, since that's the name of the systemd service file here. All right, so sudo system control start cnode service, and that should start it as a service in the background. I can verify this by doing sudo system control status cnode service. It should say active and running. Another way to verify that it's running successfully in the background is to use our wonderful GLive view tool. So I'm going to do is cnode home scripts. Let's run GLive view, and we should see a healthy syncing node, which we do. All right. So congratulations on setting up your Cardano relay node. The relay node will download and sync the chain, and you can check the node status with GLive utility. And the relay node is configured to connect with the intended block producer node. So now what we can do is we can simply exit CN1 and let that relay node sync with the Cardano Preview Testnet. And now we're going to move to the next step, which is to start CN2 as a relay node. All right, as mentioned earlier, CN2 will initially run as a relay node, then be converted into a block producer node. So in a new shell, let's enter the CN2 instance. I'm going to do multipass shell CN2. I spelled multipass right here. Multipass shell CN2. And instead of manually starting the node, we're going to just quickly configure it as a systemd service for automatic startup. And the toolkit includes a script to make this easier. We've already done this in the previous step, but we're just going to skip ahead and configure it as CN2 to run the relay as a systemd service. So what I'm going to do is let's go to cnode home scripts, cnode home scripts. And let's do cnode home script with the D flag to configure it as a systemd service. And now, like we did before, we're going to do a sudo system control start cnode.service. And we can do sudo status system control cnode service. Sudo system control status cnode service. All right, there we go. So it's active and running, and that's running in the background. So we can look at that with GLive view, and we can see we have a healthy syncing relay node. Okay, so at this point, we've set up CN1 and CN2 as relay nodes. These nodes will need to download and sync the preview chain up to 100%. This can take some time, but while you're waiting, join the Midnight Discord server where you can connect with the community, get real-time updates, and ask questions about the setup process or any issues you've encountered thus far. And then we will move on to once all your relay nodes are synced 100%, we shall go to the next step, All right, and while you're waiting for your nodes to sync, I just want to give you a little tip on monitoring your nodes. Of course, you live view before, but I just want to show this again. So here I'm in my shell. I'm going to go to. I'm actually going to open. Going to go open two bash windows here. I'm going to do multipass shell cn1, and I'm going to go to cd cnode home scripts in live view. All right, so I see this node running here. I'm going to go in my other shell, multipass shell cn2, the same thing basically, cd cnode scripts live view. All right, so at this point I can look at both of them at the same time just within my bash shell. All right, so let these sync 100% and come back. All right, now that both nodes are synced, let's convert CN2 into a block producer node. And something you can do is you use live view to see if your node's synced. For example, it says the difference in the latest block is 15. It's constantly updating, but you should see this little smiley face, and that shows that we are synced. Okay, I'm going to exit this shell. I'm going to go into my block producer node, multipass shell cn2. All right, I'm going to ensure that the node is stopped. So I'm going to do sudo system control stop cnode service, just to make sure that the CN2 node is stopped. All right. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just modify the configuration file. So I'm going to do cnode home files, and I'm going to edit the configuration file. So I'm going to do vim config.json, I for insert mode. For block producer nodes, you can use a non-P2P configuration files, but since this is just a testnet, I'm just going to use P2P. So enable P2P is true, peer sharing false. That's all right. I'm just going to hit escape right quit. All right. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the typology file. Now, remember, the typology file, similar to how a CN1 we told the typology to connect to our block producer node. For the block producer node, we only wanted to connect to the relay node. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a copy of my typology file. Let's say copy, just to have a backup. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove the old typology file. All right, I still have my copy there in case I need it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get one of the example typology configuration files. This is actually the same one that's on the Guild Operators toolkit documentation. So it shows you some example block producer topology files. I have that just slightly modified. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, since I'm just going to do touch. Actually, instead of touch, let's do vim typology.json just to write into a new file. I for insert mode. And then I'm going to copy this example typology file for block producer node. And this is also in the documentation, and that's linked in this video. And now I'm going to replace the access points with my relay node. Now, I don't remember the IP address by heart, so what I'm going to do is open a new shell. I'm going to do multipass list. And as you can see here, I can see my relay node IP address, and that's what I'm going to put in my typology file here. So again, I'm in the CN2 instance. So I'm going to do, let's do the CN1 relay 192.64.55. All right. Since it's only one node, I'm just going to do hot valency to 1. All right, let's do escape : right click. All right. Let's close this redundant shell here. All right, so now I'm going to test our node. What I'm going to do is just restart the node as a service just to make sure it's syncing. So what I'm going to do is do sudo system control restart cnode.service. And then I'm going to inspect it in GLiveView. Well, I also do sudo system control status, and they'll tell me if the service is running, which it is. And now what I'm going to do is go to CNode. Just run GLiveView. All right, so as you can see, we have one connection, which is our relay node, and the block producer node is syncing. Now, GLiveView will also still say that the relay node is a relay node. This is because the stake pool and keys aren't created yet. So let's do that next. Okay, so we're going to use the CNTools utility to create a wallet. This is located in the CNode home scripts directory. So, and to invoke CNTools in offline mode, we'll go through the prompts to create a new wallet via mnemonic phrase. I hope I'm pronouncing that word right. But anyways, so you want to go to, I'm already in that directory, but again, you just use CNode home scripts. Okay, and then we'll do CNTools in offline mode. So you're going to invoke the CNTools script and then -O for offline mode. And just select the default options. So I'm just going to select wallet. I'm going to create a new wallet. Obviously, if you have wallets before, you can import them if you want to, but since this is most likely most people's first time, we'll just create a new wallet. I'm going to select a wallet mnemonic phrase, and let's give the wallet a name. So I can just say, let's just say my wallet. All right. Now let's enter custom account index. I'm just going to select the default options here. And it's going to say, important, please write down and store below words in a secure place. Now, I'm just doing this for testing purposes. However, these 24 words is your seed phrase. So make sure you save those. Keep them in a very safe place. All right. Okay. Now to list all the addresses associated with the wallet, you can go back into the CNTools menu and select wallet. And now we can do show wallet, my wallet, and it'll actually show us the addresses. And what we need to do is copy our receiving address. This would be this top address here. We want to copy this address, and now we are going to go to the testnet faucet and request some test data. So one of the testnet faucets is in the docs.cardano.org site, and here I'm on the testnet faucet page. And if I scroll down, I can select. I have a faucet form. It's Very easy to use. Just select the environment. Make sure you do Preview Testnet. Action is I want to receive test data. And I'm going to paste my address I have here. I don't need the API key. And you got to make sure you're not a robot. All right, there we go. Request funds. And you can see it says success. Your transaction is successful, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now that I requested funds from the faucet, we're going to invoke CNTools and light mode. So I'll do CNTools -L for light mode. Do I want to update? Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's update. All right. So now I'm going to go to wallet and let's list our wallets. And you can see here, my wallet now has 10,000 test data. So we know that now we've created and funded a wallet with test data. So now let's create a stake pool. The beginning of creating your stake pool is to create a stake pool metadata.json file. This is simply a JSON file that contains some simple metadata. You could use a GitHub repository, a public domain, anything that's public, because as long as the JSON file is available publicly, it should work. As you can see here, you could go on GitHub. You could just go into a GitHub repository and just hit create a new file. You could just do like meta pool or metadata.json, and then you could start entering your JSON contents. I'm not going to create a new file here because I already created one for this tutorial. It's pool metadata.json. As you can see here, it's just these JSON contents. This is where you can define your pool name, description, ticker symbol, and your homepage URL. Something to note is that the description must be under 255 characters, and the ticker symbol must be between 3 and 9 characters. All right. Now this is available publicly, and I'm going to want to get the raw URL for this. And you can see this raw URL here. This would be the raw link to this my pool metadata. And something to note is there's a Cardano limitation where this public pool metadata file, the actual link has to be under 64 characters. Because I'm using GitHub, I am actually not under 64 characters. So for testing purposes, I'm going to just use a redirect URL. Okay, so for example, like tiny URL. Again, this is just for testing purposes. Ideally, you'd want to put this behind some URL or hosting provider that can shorten that link. And most people would use their own domain that they control to do that. But I'm just going to use GitHub and use a redirect URL, again, just for testing purposes. All right. So I'm going to copy my metadata JSON file location, and we will move on to the actual registration. Okay, we have our pool metadata file hosted publicly, and we have the URL handy, so we will need it for the registration. So now we're going to use CNTools to create and register a pool. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter my CN2 instance. And then I'm going to go to CNode home, scripts, and we're going to run CNTools, and we're going to run it in local mode. So I'm going to do CNTools, and then the end flag, end is in Nancy. And now we're going to select a pool. We're going to select a new pool. And then we're going to enter the pool name. Ideally, you want to enter the exact pool name. So in my example, it's winter green pool. Okay. right? Hit enter. Now, if I go to pool and list, it should return my pool. I see my pool ID, and it says registered as no. So let's register that. Within pool operation, I'm going to go to register. I'm going to go to online mode and select which pool I want to register, which is the wintergreen pool. Now the pledge in ADA, the default is 50,000. However, remember the test faucet only gave us 10,000 test ADA. So I'm just going to say 1,000 ADA. I don't have to use the whole amount because this is just for testing purposes. So let's do a 1,000 pledge. The pool margin is the percentage of rewards taken by the stake pool operator after the fixed costs, but before rewards are distributed. So you can just set the desired percentage or the default one. This is just testing purposes, so I'm just going to do default. Now the pool cost is the estimated SPO's cost of operation in ADA. Though test ADA is valueless, so I'm just going to select the default. Now we're going to enter the pool's JSON URL. This is that public URL to the pool's metadata file, and remember, it must be less than 64 characters, and you want to ensure the metadata is correct. So I'm going to put it's not the URL, so I'm going to just make sure let me copy my URL and put it in here, and it's going to return the URL. You want to make sure that it's accurate, this information, and it looks accurate to me. And I hit yes, and now it says pool relay registration, your pool relay registration. You need to register a public relay that's associated with your block producer node. In this case, that's the CN1 instance. So I'm going to just do register by IP address. Obviously, if you have A records and DNS records for your relay, you can include those if you want. But I'm just going to do the IP address, and I don't remember the address by heart, so I'm going to use my handy multipass list command, and I'm going to insert the CN1 instance IP address. The default port is 6,000 that we had. Add more relays? No. Now, if you did have more relays, this is where you can definitely add them. But we only have one relay for testing purposes. Now we're going to select a main owner pledge wallet. I'll just do my wallet. My wallet, not registered on chain. Press any key to continue. I'll just continue. And now it's going to submit the registration transaction. Register a multi-owner pool. It's just myself, so I'm going to hit no. Use a separate rewards wallet from the main owner. You could if you want to, but I'm just going to hit no. And now it's going to continue with the transaction. Okay, and now it says the pool is now successfully registered, which is awesome. We have a registered stake pool on the Preview Testnet. That's awesome. However, pay attention to the recommendation in the successful registration prompt above that reads, it says, uncomment and set the value for pool name in the environment with wintergreen. All right, so this is just a simple environment variable that we have to declare for our block producer node. All right, now let's add the pool name to our block producer node. An easy way to do this would be to actually, instead of modifying the environment variable, we've configured it as a systemd service already. So we're actually just going to modify the service file, which in my opinion is a lot easier. So now that the pool is registered, just going to enter. We can get out of CNTools here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just stop the node. So I'm going to do, so I'm in my CN2 instance. I'm going to do sudo system control stop cnode.service. All right. I could check that the service is stopped. Right. It says inactive. That's good. All right. Now we're going to modify the systemd service file. So what we're going to do is sudo etc systemd /system. And this is the standard directory for Linux systemd service files. But the Cardano node one is cnode.service. So that's the file that we're going to edit. And we're going to edit it in Vim. So I'm going to do sudo vim etc systemd system cnode.service. That's the specific Cardano node service file. All right. Now I'm in there. I'm going to hit the I key for insert mode. And let's just go in the middle here, hit enter to create a new line. And we're going to type in an environment equals, we'll just do pool name equals wintergreen pool. All right. Now we're just going to do escape : right quit. And obviously you're going to name your pool based on whatever your specific pool name is. I'm using wintergreen pool just because it's the test pool for this demonstration. So : right quit. I'm going to save that file. I can even look at the contents of that service file just to make sure that environment is added. Environment equals pool name wintergreen pool. Sweet. All right, so we edited the environment variable. Now let's restart the node. So I'm going to do sudo system control. Let's just do start, or let's do restart cnode service. Unifile configuration are drop-ins of cnode changed on disk. All right. Well, we missed that step. So we have to do sudo system. Whenever you modify a systemd service file, you actually need to reload the daemon, which is a step that we forgot, but thankfully the error told us. So do sudo system control daemon reload, and then sudo system control restart cnode.service. It should work for us. All right. I can do sudo system control status cnode service to see if the service is running. It just says active and running. That's good. Now let's look at the node in G-Live view. So I actually made a mistake. I spelled environment wrong. And I'm keeping this mistake just so that you don't make it either. So environment should be ENVIRON. All right. So I spelled environment wrong. So make sure you spell environment correctly and then do pool name equals wintergreen pool here. All right, because when I did run the node, it didn't recognize it as a core node. So make sure you spell environment correctly. I'm going to do scrape : right quit. I'm going to do sudo system control daemon reload. And then I'm going to do sudo system control restart cnode.service. And as you can see before, when I started the node, when I spelled environment, the environment variable wrong, said Cardano node as a relay node. So hopefully it says core node now. So let's do GUI view. And you can see this is now recognized as a core block producer node. So at this point, we have a registered Cardano Stake Pool on the Preview Testnet. Some things you might want to look into is like server hardening and secret hardening. This is just for testing and educational purposes. There's many great resources for server hardening out there that's really opinionated. But the next thing I want to talk about is the keys that you will need if you do decide to opt in to becoming a Midnight validator on the Midnight Testnet. Okay, now that we set up a Cardano Stake Pool operation on the Preview Testnet, we can become a Midnight validator on the Midnight Testnet if we decide to do so. To do that, you can go to the Midnight documentation. There's a validate section, and you can go to become a Midnight block producer, or in other words, validator. And you'll see step 1 here is to begin operating a Cardano Stake Pool. And this video basically covered that prerequisite. In this case, we set up an SPO on Preview because Testnet is a partner chain to Preview. And within the registration process, you're going to need access to your cold signing key and your payment signing key. So the payment signing key is associated with your wallet, and the cold signing key is associated with the stake pool signing key. You also need the payment verification key. But without further ado, I'm just going to show you where all these Cardano keys are located. So if I go to my CN2 instance, I'm going to go change directory into CNode home. And within this directory, there's this folder directory called priv. In other words, like private key. If I go into priv, you'll see I have these directories called pool and wallet. If I look at pool, you'll see I have a directory for winter green pool. This contains all the pool related keys. If I look at wallet, this will list the wallets I created. In this case, it was my wallet, and that will have my associated wallet keys. Now let's actually go into one of these. So if I go to CD pool, let's go on to wintergreen. You'll see within here, I see all my stake pool related keys, and I also see my cold signing key that I will need handy if I do opt into becoming a Midnight validator. And let's go on to the wallet one. CD wallet. And here you'll find the payment signing key and parent verification key. I want to highlight an important step, which might not be necessary in the future. However, when you see the begin operating Cardano Stake Pool and documentation, there's this important notice which says use basically regular Cardano keys and not extended keys, which are not supported at this time. However, CNTools uses the extended key format for this extended BIP32 key format for the payment signing key. Now, if you're watching this and you still see this notice, then you have to do a simple workaround, which I'm going to show you right now. If you don't see this in the documentation, then you can ignore this step. So this step, we're going to create a regular key pair. All right. So to do that, I'm just going to go into my wallet here, and I'm going to do Cardano CLI address, key generation, let me see, let's do key generation, verification key file. we're going to do payment.vkey. We're going to name this payment2 so that we can associate it as a different key. And then we're going to do signing key file payment2.skey. And now if we look at payment2skey, you'll see this is the regular Cardano signing key, and the regular if we look at the regular payment S key, that's the extended key. So that's how you can tell the difference between the extended key and the regular key. All right. Now, if you need to generate an address for the regular key pair, what you can do is Cardano CLI address build payment verification key file payment2.vkey, and that will have an output file as payment2.address. And this will be for testnet magic 2, which is what you need to do for Preview Testnet. And then if I look at the payment to address, this is the Cardano address that I would have to fund using the Preview Testnet faucet. All right. So again, you only need to do this step if you still see that extended keys aren't supported at this time, which extended key support is actually coming very soon. So I just want to include this step just in case there's anyone watching this before extended key support comes in. But anyways, thank you for joining me for setting up a Cardano Stake Pool and the Preview Testnet. I hope this was insightful to you. Please let me know what you think in the comments and how we can improve this content. And please join the Midnight Discord, where you'll find fellow Cardano SPOs, Midnight Validators, and the Midnight team. I look forward to communicating with you all, and I hope you have an awesome day.